Early in January 2023, I was in downtown LA at Row. Row is an area of small pop-up shops and small format stores in a very creative part of downtown LA that's being reinvigorated. Old factories and old warehouses are being turned into this really cool retail precinct. And I was walking around looking at different stores. I've made a couple of videos about other businesses that I've been to. And I happened to walk past this store called High Tide. And it surprised me. I didn't know anything about it, and it really looked interesting. So I stepped inside. Now I'm going to jump ahead and take you to their website, and then we'll come back to stepping inside the store. So High Tide Downtown LA started in 2017, then they opened in Brooklyn in 2021. Both of the stores are inspired by this Japanese business, a local stationery store, and it's a type of business that always existed near a school, a familiar place to anybody who grew up in Japan. They were small stores, shelves are crammed with notebooks, pencils, erasers, pen cases, cheap sweets, and toys. For students with little pocket money, these stores served as a place to hang out, alone or with friends. And so that was their inspiration, and they're being very clear about that as being their inspiration. Their store, they host exhibitions, workshops, feature Japanese makers and local artists. And I want to take you in there because now, once I went to the store and then went to the website, I was really impressed with how committed they are to their goals. Now, if you don't sell stationery, I think you'll find it interesting. If you do sell stationery, then I think this is must watch because it's just absolutely fascinating. So you're at the front door, you look at this, and what I was drawn to before I knew anything about High Tide was the fact that this looked like a shop with fixtures that weren't made for retail. And I like that a lot. I'm really interested in retail where retailers aren't spending money with shop fitters, way too much money with shop fitters on exorbitant fixtures that are a shrine to no one, certainly not a shrine to the customer, not helping to sell products. So I was drawn to this because this looked like it was homemade, and I thought that was pretty cool. So you step inside, and sure enough, you've got this wooden shelving that's been put together with some pretty basic fixturing for displaying product. It's not overcrowded, so it's easy to shop. When I say overcrowded, you don't have too much product on the shelves. It's easy to shop, easy to see what each product is, and to be drawn to the products. And it just was really appealing. And immediately I got a sense, again, without having gone to their website, that this had a connection with Japanese culture and certainly with products that they sourced from Japan. I thought that was pretty interesting. As I turned the corner and headed up this little kind of ramp area, you've got this pegboard shelving that's been made into a sort of a wall on which they can display product, which I thought was pretty cool. And then they're displaying bags and things like that. Again, very basic. They've not spent a lot of money on fixtures, which I think is incredibly clever and essential in retail today. You've got products that are grouped together by color. So here you've got these sort of stationery items that are grouped together and positioned in this way. You've got these are all green themed items, and they are interesting. They go together, and if I'm buying based on a color, then that's going to appeal to me. But it also helps me see the different items that they happen to sell. I'm stepping out of that area, and they're using every bit of space they can to display product, including this particular brand that they have here, which is, again, a very strong and well-known Japanese brand of product. And they've got some of their own branded product, their own High Tide product as well. Really interesting, these products from Penco, really different, fresh, appealing, certainly enjoyable product to engage with, and different to what you see in the traditional sort of stationery outlet that we have in Australia. This is a section where they're displaying calendars and journals and things like that. And it kind of looks cool. It's a little sort of pop-up store within the store. And I really like that. I thought that was very interesting. They're using very basic stuff to display this Things to Do thing, which is a monthly timetable and notebook for 2023. Not your traditional diary, not your traditional calendar. Really interesting and enjoyable to engage with. They've got a terrific wall of stickers. And again, they're using color theming to display a range of products together and connected. They're selling stickers, which is really cool. you have something like this, which is a product I looked at and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I saw next to it, there's an example of what it looks like when you're actually using it. You can take an old soda glass and turn it into a more attractive vase, which I thought was pretty interesting. They're using anything to display product, which fits very much with the kind of style that they're going for, this local stationery shop that you would have in Japan around the corner, almost around every corner and near every school, which I think is interesting. The shop itself was very easy to navigate. You've got a concrete floor. It's really simple and straightforward. It's not pretentious. And then you've got this vast array of pens displayed. And then you've got above the pens, you've got all the various journals and places where you can test the pens and engage with them. And that's really encouraged, which I thought was fantastic. It's not just a single pad like we have in our stores. They've got it all out there on show, and you can engage with the product and play with it as much as you want. And you can buy pencils and pens by the box, which I think is terrific. And then you've got just tables like this that are used in a way to display product, which I think is, again, pretty interesting and appealing. They're selling all different sorts of items, not using traditional retail fixtures, and they're displaying product that's going to appeal to that person who really is interested in the specialty paper that they happen to sell. And then they've got specialty stationery items too. They've got utility knives. They've got particular types of pens and pencils, whether you're doing calligraphy or anything like that. They're really satisfying a broad range of needs. And they've got some clothing and a bit of whimsy thrown in for good measure. They've got clever things like bookmarks, and the counter itself is pretty cool. The counter itself is there to upsell you, as you would see at any good counter. They don't have candy here. This was all stationery related, which I think ties back to kind of what they're going for in LA. They have greeting cards, really thoughtfully and thoughtfully sourced, and this curated range of greeting cards. Greeting cards. In this case, there's still some Christmas there, and you can see that they're representing artists and they're representing the aesthetic of the business really, really well. As I said, the counter is packed with a whole lot of product. You can see it all there, but the counter is nothing special. It looks like it's something that they've assembled themselves, which is very much what they're going for. And I think it works really, really well. So the High Tide experience is quite fascinating. Yes, they had some incense and it was burning, so it gave the shop a really nice smell, which I thought was appealing. Really good everyday retail traditions, even including a very small A-frame that they have out the front. What I like about High Tide is it very much fits that local stationery situation. I'm seeing a broad variety of product. It's not ridiculously expensive. Yes, I did buy some items, even though I was traveling. I love a good stationery shop for sure. And I like the fact that the shop, it felt local. It felt locally engaged. And it didn't feel expensive in terms of fixtures and fittings. And I think that matters a lot because I think the days of fixtures and fittings that are, costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars in our business, and, we struggle to get a payback in sort of a 5-year period, I think those days are gone. And I think High Tide very much reflects what we would want to see in that sort of retail situation. It's a really good business to visit. Small format, not a big amount of space. And I think even if you don't sell stationery, it's worth going there to see what they do. If you do sell stationery, I think it's a must visit. I found it really fascinating. Their website is well worth looking at. The website is hightidestore.dtla.com. Really well worth seeing if you want to see a little bit more about what they do. I found it inspiring. I've taken away some ideas, and because stores that I have happen to kind of play in that sort of local stationery space as well. So I think that's really, really interesting. So if you're in downtown LA, get to High Tide, but for sure, get to Row itself. As you've got many, many, many shops. I spent the best part of a day there, and it's really easy to pass the time and see some really cool things. If you go on a Sunday, there's usually a food market nearby that's really well worth getting to. You get to taste food from many, many different countries. So it's really worthwhile. LA is a hard place to get around. So I took an Uber there. I mention that because High Tide and downtown LA and Row in particular aren't going to come up necessarily on tourist lists. But if you're a retailer and you're interested in how retail is done, different retail and inspiring retail, it's really well worth getting to. So hope you found it worthwhile, and I'll see you soon.